Thompson has the latest.
Right now, we have 0 leads.
This morning, the search for a man accused of killing 5 of his neighbors, including a 9-year-old child, is growing more urgent by the minute. Is there any danger to the community right now?
There's always a danger when you've got a guy that's just shot 5 people in the head, execution style.
Authorities are offering an $80,000 reward for any information leading to the arrest of 38-year-old Francisco Oropesa, as more than 250 officers comb the rural Cleveland, Texas community.
We're asking everyone for your help till we can bring this suspect, or this monster, I will call him, to justice.
The manhunt began late Friday after police say a neighbor allegedly asked the suspect to stop firing his AR-15 rifle outside because they were trying to put a baby to sleep. Moments later, a massacre unfolded.
This man takes it upon himself to walk out of his residence with a loaded AR-15, walk up into that man's house and start shooting.
5 people were killed, including 9-year-old Daniel Guzman and his mother, Sonia.
My heart is with this 8-year-old little boy. I don't care if he was here legally. I don't care if he was here illegally. He was in my county.
His father returned to the scene the next day, devastated and heartbroken.
Él murió porque quiere defender a su mamá.
Now telling NBC News his son died because he was trying to protect his mom, saying that the child saw her fall and ran toward her. 3 other children were also found at the scene, covered in blood but alive.
There was 2 females in the bedroom that were laying on top of juvenile children, in my opinion, to keep them children safe.
The community gathering to mourn, but still on edge. Do you believe he'll be caught?
Espero que sí.
That's NBC's Priscilla Thompson with that report. Let's bring right now NBC News national affairs analyst John Heilman. John, we saw the humanity of that sheriff holding back tears as he talked about the young boy who was slaughtered along with his mother, trying to save his mother's life, and they were shot execution style. And yet the governor of Texas decides that what he's going to do in statements and tweets is underline the fact that they're illegal immigrants, not human beings, not victims, not yet the latest in a long line of tragic victims, but instead underlines every chance he gets that they were illegal immigrants. The callousness, the inhumanity of it all really is breathtaking.
It is, Joe, and I saw that tweet, and I've heard you talking about it this morning earlier. I obviously share that same sentiment. It's not surprising coming from Governor Abbott. That has been his way when it comes to dealing with the question of illegal immigration in Texas and the political capital that he's derived from it. I find, though, almost as breathtaking and maybe more depressing the fact that a governor who has repeatedly used illegal immigrants as human props, has repeatedly kind of exploited the resentment towards them and fostered the resentment towards undocumented workers in the state of Texas, that he gets rewarded for it over and over again. There's no gubernatorial race in the country, Joe, that was more clear on the question of guns, for instance, than the rematch, the matchup last fall between Beto O'Rourke and Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott won his 3rd term in Texas. He won it going away, 54 to 43% in that reelection. And I have to say, as breathtaking as the cruelty of the way he's highlighting that issue and the political hay, the kind of insidious political hay he's making out of it, is the fact that he gets rewarded for it time and time again in the state of Texas. I find it both breathtaking and incredibly depressing that you can be rewarded for that kind of attitude and those kind of behaviors and that kind of cruelty in a state as big and important in America as Texas.
And Caddy, we are a nation. Texas certainly a state that's awash in guns. We are a nation awash in guns. And of course, people have looked at that reality for quite some time. When you just look at the 10 years, again, this is so important for people because we've talked about guns for a very long time in this country and had the debate. especially since 1968, the year of all the assassinations. But just in the 10 years since Sandy Hook, the number of homicides by guns, the number of murders by guns, violent death have exploded, absolutely exploded, to a point now where guns are the number one killer, a cause of death for our young children. And just look over the past several weeks. You've had a young man who was shot for going to the wrong door, trying to get his twin brothers. You had a cheerleader shot for walking into the wrong car in a parking lot. You had a young woman shot in the back as she was driving out of somebody's driveway because she went into the wrong driveway. You have this happening. Incidences of road rage that happen so often that we don't even report on them. People getting guns when they're angry because they're cut off. When I keep saying that it's inevitable that we're going to pass sweeping gun safety legislation, it's not because I have any insight. I just know at some point Americans are going to stop putting up with their children being slaughtered this way. The question is, when?
Yeah, and let's hope they do. I mean, I'm getting bored of myself saying on this program, this does not happen in other countries. Other countries have angry people, they have mental health problems, they have disputes between neighbors, they have babies that need to sleep, they have people being criticized for not letting those babies sleep. The difference is you don't go in and you don't get people shooting up a whole household and a whole family with a gun because they happen to have one. People are not dying because of these kinds of normal human interactions that happen all over the world. It's just that in other countries, people are not being killed because of them. Okay, we were talking about Greg Abbott there. Let's talk about another Republican governor, because Ron DeSantis' trip to the United Kingdom appears to have fallen, well, a little flat. The Florida governor was in England last week, capping off his 4-country trade mission trip. He met with business chiefs at a fancy event on Friday, some of whom described the Republican as, quote, horrendous and low wattage. According to Politico, one British business figure said DeSantis looked bored and that his message wasn't presidential. Another person said, quote, nobody in the room was left thinking, this man's going places. It felt really a bit like we were watching a state-level politician. DeSantis' international trip was officially promoted as an attempt to build Florida's economic relationships with the UK, Israel, South Korea, and Japan. But it's been seen by many in the US as a chance for the governor to present himself as a leader on the world stage. Meanwhile, Governor DeSantis' feud with Disney may be costing him with his own voters. In Celebration, a planned community developed by Disney next to Walt Disney World, some residents say they don't understand the feud and that it's now causing them to rethink their support for the governor. According to the Washington Post, they are concerned about whether they will end up paying a higher cost of living, especially after DeSantis threatened to hike utility costs on Disney-aligned properties. Disney, by the way, no longer controls development in Celebration, but it is still involved, including operating the utility companies that service the town. The area has about 16,000 residents and has become politically competitive in recent years. The community narrowly broke for DeSantis in 2018, but it backed Donald Trump in 2016 and Joe Biden in 2020. So it is one, Joe, that could go either way. I mean, between the number of, 80,000 people in Florida who work for Disney and then all of the knock-on businesses that depend.
You know, going back to the school shootings,
Manjaro, if you're allergic to it,
of children being basically massacred. This never should have reached the level that it's at right now, towards seeing how much devastation is happening in so many people's lives. And just as the commentator was talking about it, it's really such of a gross malice interpretation of how that the governor of the state of Texas now values human life on whether or not you're truly a citizen, a legal citizen of America or not. And if you're not, that basically puts you in a category of being secondary And because you're secondary, we should not feel as bad for them children that just recently got killed, slaughtered, even though it happened in his state. Now, to me, it actually speaks volumes about how low life that some of these Americans have become, that have set back and they have gotten fat, I mean literally fat, off of the illegal trade of Mexicans that's come over to Texas and worked in hotels and worked in building construction industry trade. They've worked in farming, agriculture trade. They've done everything from being housemaids to cleaning up hotels to you name it. And this is the response that from a humanitarian standpoint, that the great governor of the great state of Texas is going to respond to or respond about. To me, it's sickening. It's sickening, and it tells you just exactly how wicked that these so-called uppity-ups, these bigwigs are, especially due to the fact that he probably winds up going to church every Sunday and sits on whatever pew and listens to sermons routinely every week. That's the more sickening part, looking at it from a humanitarian standpoint, because to me, something that callous never should have been brought up on media pertaining to whether or not they was legal or illegal. The fact of the matter is a human being's life. Several of them got taken. And it's just disgusting to me.
Whether or not that works. First, Fox News and America Together celebrating Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
Celebrated Chinese American architect I.M. Pei is perhaps best known for modernizing the Louvre Museum in Paris. His design of the large glass pyramid is now one of the most famous landmarks in the city. Born and raised in China, Pei moved to the United States when he was 18 to study architecture. During World War II, he worked for the U.S. government before starting his own design firm. In 1964, Jackie Kennedy personally chose the relatively unknown Pei to design the John F. Kennedy Library in Boston.
Nice.
His work can be seen around the world,
Nice.
including the East Building of the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C., the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, and Hong Kong's Bank of China Tower. Pei died in 2019 at the age of 102. America Together celebrating I.M. Pei.
Pretty neat.
To talk about the issue so that it can no longer be.
Once more, going back to
sidelines, I was never. I missed 4 or 5 free
to
throws.
the massive shootings.
Never overthink it. Just
It's-
enjoy
It is so sad
So the smile was intentional.
of the state of affairs of where we are right now.
In the present, and as simple as it is, it's just trying to make a free throw. So I like to have fun with it.
Free on your first order. Act now. Whether you're
I'm going to leave it there, pertaining to what we're talking about, the subject matter pertaining to the death and injuries of so many people.
It's his room. He's not afraid to level with you on things.
Want to say,
He's not afraid to give you a cookie and then give you a whip and then give you a cookie and then give you a whip.
God bless America.
That's why he was so good at foreign policy. Think if these
And
idiots we have in charge now would just let Trump
God
take
bless
over
our
foreign policy. How
United
much
States
better off we'd
military,
be.
and
As
God
far
bless
as
our
the whole
endeavors towards where
DeSantis
we go
Trump
from
thing,
here.
Donald Trump believes to his core that he had the 2020 election stolen from him. And honestly, no matter which way you look at that, he did. Whether you believe there were all kinds of hacking shenanigans or whether you believe the Hunter Biden laptop burial by the FBI in the media.
See, all this stuff that's being said right now about Donald Trump and the election and how people are still stirring the lie up, just like this individual right here it's doing. All this to me is just simply idiotic to the degree that it's bringing destruction, that much more confusion and distraught into the American people's lives that is basically tearing America all to pieces. Tearing America all to pieces. And it's really, really sad. It's sad that a group of people, just like the governor of Texas, can degrade human beings, not so much because of their death, but because, I guess in his eyes, because they wasn't legally legal, their deaths don't mean as much as the Texans, the true Texans' death or the American people's death. To me, it's sickening in what type of asinizing people that lives in America has turned out to be. Good luck to all of us, and as I said a while ago, shalom. Take care. God bless.